What I want to talk to you about today, we are going to go through a macro level as to why consulting is such an important part, or why this business model is the best, um, the fastest, and the most sustainable and stable business model that you can choose, whether you are in the process of quitting your 9 to 5, and or if you have kind of been dabbling into the entrepreneurship space but you haven't actually built that consistent income in a way that you are not starting every month or every 3 months from zero. So I'm going to share the macro level as to why we're at the threshold again, and where the advancement and the evolution of AI play in this space, and what it means for you as an entrepreneur, and how consulting can be a launch pad for you. And then when I go into micro level, it's more of a personal story on how I actually built my first 100K through consulting, and also how consulting was actually the one that is the most profitable in my business, and also the one that has carried me through um, during hard times in my life. Because I think that, as entrepreneurs, that is something to really think about. Is there are a lot of greatness that comes with it, the freedom, the impact, the wealth that you get to come, that comes with being an entrepreneur, but also the mental health challenges, the income instability and unpredictability, and all of that. It also comes in a package as being an entrepreneur. So we are going to go deep into that. My intention for you is to not to open your mind up to see things differently, to really allow yourself to spot and to see things in a way that you haven't seen before. That is the intention of this particular module. What I really want to open up for you is a new possibility, opportunities that you have not seen before. Right. So, whether it's how you're actually able to turn your professional expertise and live experiences into a unique business solutions in a way that you haven't thought before. You think that either you're going to quit your job, be a freelancer, or, you're meant to just start doing some TikTok dance and all of that. But you have this very unique creative problem solving skills, or you're very creative, or whatever it is. My intention for you is like really expanding your mind when you actually understand the macro level of like the scale in how AI is already changing business, and where you can actually come and fill in the gap with your professional expertise and lived experience. So when you're at the start of this, you might be thinking like very, in a very limited boxed way on how you have been doing things all along, whether it's your corporate life, whether it's through someone that you've learned online. And that's why this is called Beyond the Box, is to challenge you to see beyond that, beyond the limitation, and actually see the opportunities in which you can actually bring forth the value and the solutions that you have for your potential clients. And what I also really want to highlight is that for you to really see the market in a macro level on how it will be rewarding adaptability, flexibility, and one of the things that AI can never replace is your true creativity. So, if you have found yourself in this program, I would, I'm putting money on a table that you are creative, whether you actively see that at your in yourself or not. Because for me, it took me 15 years to finally see that I'm creative, even though I have had a lot of creative endeavors, right? So, that is kind of I guess, the shadow or downside when you are very academic, when you are in a corporate setting. And I think that creativity and being strategic, they all go hand in hand. And so whether or not your title actually has like strategist or anything like creative in your title, we go beyond the title. And that's something that we continue to teach more inside this program, is that you are like beyond your resume, and how can you actually extract the skills, the expertise that you have spent years, if not decades, in cultivating, and how can you actually package it and position it in a way that makes you like the value that you, first of all, your value is irreplaceable, but actually positioning and communicating it in a way that just makes you irreplaceable. So those are the different modules that you will be doing throughout this program. If you know, join this program through Paid in Full, you would have access to all of them right now. If not, you would get it through dripping after each payment has been made. So it would come through to you in the following weeks. So really, I think another thing that I really want you to keep in mind, or at the back of your mind when you're kind of seeing things in a different way, in a different possibility, is that to zoom out, to see beyond 3 to 5 years. We will go deeper into this inside the identity shift mindset module. But what I really want you to do is, like, you need to have the ability to think long term, to see at least 3 to 5 steps ahead. But then you also need to have the ability to execute based on what you know now. Because either way, if you don't have long term vision, you're just going to stuck in this hamster wheel and you never be able to grow out of where you are now because your identity is stuck here. But at the same time, if you are only focusing on big vision and allowing the magnitude of that vision and ideas to hinder you and stop you from actually executing now, because clarity comes from taking action. Clarity comes from taking action, and I understand that because I'm a massive visionary, right? My gifts is like I can, you know, really see the breadth and the big picture thinking. But then as an entrepreneur, having to manage my own business, I have to be able to take action now, and allowing and trusting that what needs to be shown, the vision, the next step will continue to come through. So with that being said, we are at this threshold where you are either building something that would multiply and compound in the next 3 to 5 years, or you're building something that will be obsolete. That is fact. So with consulting, and why I love consulting is because it is a foundation, it is a launch pad. There would always be a demand for it. And with that stability that you've built in your business, inside your business model, it allows you to be adaptable and flexible with the bigger vision that you want to create. Because I don't have the answer for everything, but what I do know is I have a solid foundation, and that I have the ability to adapt, to pivot, to be flexible based on where AI is going. And on a deeper level, is that you are either part of the group of the winning team who is actually leading the change in humanity, being the leader, the pioneer in how you use AI in a way that actually, you know, better humanity and bring it towards what truly matters to you, or you're just going to allow AI to take control over your life. Both sides of the coins are true. I'm going to go deeper into it in this module, but this is something to also really think about and focus, because you're either going to be part of who is leading the change, which I know you are, and you already taken a first step by being in this program and actually learning and seeing how can you get ahead of the game, or you'll be taken and swept by the change, right? So this is really what this module is all about. All right, so now we move into the macro level. So the macro level, how I see it, is like the collective, or, you know, what is happening beyond business and where we are going in humanity, as humanity, right? Social media and internet has really opened access to these global market where there really is no borders, you know, in terms of technology and who we get to serve. And right now we are in this historical parallel where I believe that we are living in the most powerful moments, as yet at the same time is tumultuous. It is a tumultuous time in human history. You know, when I look back on how, like, you know, what catalyzed me in starting my business was social media. And that was 15 years ago, about 2010. And back then, I remember people were like so resistant to get away from print, right? From print media, and saying that social media is just a fad. Look at where we are right now. at like 15 years later, because because what we, because of how the evolution of technology has taken us, and because of what happened in 2020 and with the introduction of TikTok, like there is a collective behavioral change, attention fatigue, and all of that that is very real right now. Right. And I also believe that if you are part of this training, part of you is like, yes, you do believe in the power of social media, the power of marketing through social media. But at the same time, you're at the brink of burnout, where you feel like you're just putting all this effort, you're putting all this time, you're putting all this energy into it, but the return is not what it is. And you might be holding on to the fine string, or something needs to change. So the fact that you're aware that something needs to change, that is a start. So I really believe that there is a supernatural revival that is happening, and simultaneously an explosion of AI and technological advancement. And both of them are running in parallel, right? And for me, I find it very, like, it's impossible for me to not talk about God when I talk about AI, because I really see how they are running, both of them are running parallelly. And I think if you have any resistance towards AI of like, no, we're going back to where it was, it's valid. I went through 2 years of like, all right, I'm just going to move to the jungle. I'm going to do something completely like opposite and go and, raise some kettles and have off the grid lifestyle. And I'm sure that many of us have these like fantasy. And then I realized, whilst I like really high quality organic, like, animal product, I do not want to go and milk the cow. I love to be around nature, but I don't think I actually want to like look after a barn. And, I love cooking, but I don't know if I want to make that the entire thing. And it's part of, I think that part of change is you first have this resistance. That means that is an area for us to really lean in and see what it is. And one of the worst thing you can do is to deny that AI evolution is happening, because denying the AI evolution is like denying gravity or Jesus. Your unbelief doesn't mean that it's untrue. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. So you can either be the one who is planning for it, who is leading the evolution, or you can be the one that, well, the opposite side of it, that wherever that takes you, that takes you. And here's a fun fact. In September last year, after a business mastermind with some of the world's best entrepreneurs and pioneers, that was when I started to really get out of my little cocoon and enter back into the technology world, which was where I came from, to really discuss about the impact of AI on the job market and where it takes us in the next 5 years, like how many jobs are going to wipe out the market and how should we plan and manage the risk as entrepreneurs. And right after the mastermind, I encountered Jesus through a conversation and I was saved. This was August 2024, so I can't even make this up even if I tried. And now that I'm on the other side of it, now we're at the end of July 2025, a year later, like the pieces come together. And I was like, oh, it makes sense. And this just confirms my belief that technology and supernatural revival or spirituality is running in parallel. It's not one or another. You don't have to fully stand upon, like, believe this. You don't have to believe in Jesus to believe in this AI evolution. What I am inviting you to is to really see the magnitude of where this is going, and where you get to play a vital role in being the catalyst of change, in being the one who push the boundaries through your consulting business. It might sound very boring, it might not sound exciting, but the don't underestimate the impact and the value that you get to create through your past experience. And really, right now, I have a question for you, is that you have a choice to be a part of the change, shaping where we want humanity to go, architecting new systems, new ways of doing things, which I believe that is what is stirring in your spirit, because No normal people would just decide, well, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to quit my 9 to 5. I'm going to start doing something greater. So you are caught for a reason and you are here for a reason. So you have to make a conscious choice, and it's a choice that you make over and over again until it becomes a part of who you are, that you are here to lead humanity towards a change, towards a new system. None of us really know where it's going, but what we know is like there's a vision that we want to make sure that whatever it is that we do with AI, whatever it is that we do with the expertise, the lived experience that we have, that God has given us, in the best possible way for something greater than us. Because if you don't choose, you're basically choosing to be the one who is shaped by the change and continue to just be the one who has an opinion, but not actually truly leaving a mark. And we see a lot of that on the internet now, like having an opinion about AI versus actually being an active participant of where AI is shaping where we're going through your business, through the creative media output that you create. That's what you're here to do. And remember, whatever it is that you choose, both sides are true. You get to choose which coin and which side you want to be. So if you haven't already, I want you to take a moment and say, now I choose, I decide to be a part of the change, shaping where we want humanity to go. And I want to be the change who architect new systems. Declare it, make that choice now. Because once you make that choice, how you continue to understand, to see, to listen to this module and actually putting the following modules into practice, into application, and actually creating your business comes from this identity. Just a simple decision. Notice how your mind, your perspective have shifted, how ideas and opportunities start opening up. It's that simple. So the age of AI abundance really is here, and make sure that you are on the winning side by making that choice. So really ask yourself, what is your stand on this? How are you going to prepare for this shift? Okay. So now we've gone through the macro. Let's talk a bit more about, let's zoom it closer into a micro level, into a way where we talk about the landscape, the change in landscape, especially in creativity and professional service, right? So the media landscape is changing. The entire workforce is changing, whether we like it or not. I mean, that's part of evolution. It happens regardless of whether we are conscious of it or not. We just get to decide that we want to be the change that we want to see. So a little bit of like history and where we are, like when I started, right? So for those of you who don't really know my story, I was a ex-charter accountant. I was an analyst. I worked as an analyst advisory in some of the leading companies in Australia, in tech companies. So that was my professional background. But around the same time, I also started a blog, right? That was like a creative outlet for me to, first of all, practice having a voice, writing, communicating, and just, a creative outlet for me to test, experiment, and pivot. It was my playground, like a portfolio that I didn't know I was doing that. Right. So 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, like the digital work, VA, social media management, a whole lot of things like social media had just opened up this level of opportunities that allows us to make money online, remote work, data entry, all of these things. Right. But a lot of this work that has started, the remote work online, AI is going to replace those jobs, right? Because AI can do it at a much efficient rate and within minutes, if not seconds. Yes, you need the person to create the system. You need the person to engineer the person. You need the system. You need the person to review if that is doing right. So the low level job will be obsolete. The person that's going to review it, the person who understands AI, the person that can speak AI language, is going to be the one that gets paid to review the AI to do the work. So can you see that perspective now? Right? Even if you are a brand like website designer and all of that, there are certain creativity, there are certain things that AI can't replace. But I've also tested and I could build a website in a day, and it is professional AF. So here's really where I want you to see, right? Based on what I've just shared, a lot of the work that we do now, the execution work that we do now, and maybe it can still garner a pretty good price, pretty good rate. But over time, in the next 3 to 5 years, AI can replace this, or like the businesses that has the resource to invest, they would hire someone to either build that, to refine that, to engineer that, to review that, and not the actual person doing it. So you can, and the good news is nobody knows how to do this. Nobody knows how to do this. So it's whoever who learn how to master this, test it, use it as a portfolio, use it as a case study, as like, yeah, this is how I do it. That is the winner. That is the person, and that is really the direction of where you want to shape your consulting firm to go. And just to give you some more real example, I used to pay someone like $10 to transcribe like one audio and video, and it takes like a day. Like $10 per video and audio. Now YouTube and ChatGPT does that in minutes. In minutes, an hour video transcribed. And you pay a subscription for, how much do I pay it for? I think it was like $29 per month. And if you have multiple videos, that's all you need. AI can do now for about $15 a month what I used to pay $500 a month for. And it does a better job. And what I used to charge my clients for on like the social media management, the core offer, for $2.5 grand to $3 grand a month for. Canva, social media, all this different technology can do it 10x the rate, efficiency, and effectiveness at 10% of the price. So do you get that idea now? What I used to pay $10 for one thing for, and if I have 10 videos, that's $100. Now ChatGPT does it for free. Well, doesn't do it for free, but if I use Substack, it does it for free. So that is how fast it's shifting. It's beyond what our mind can understand. And what I used to charge my clients for $2.5 grand to $3 grand a month for, AI can do it at 10% of the price at a 10x efficiency and effectiveness. That is just fact. No emotion. Don't have to get emotion about it that AI is taking my job. It's just fact, right? But here's the thing. Here's also the thing that I really want you to understand. You know what doesn't change? What I would also show you, I've broken down how I turn a $750 project into a $50K a year client, and how I've done this, what my mentor calls a revolving pricing, and how I blend execution and strategy together. So the execution part is the 2.5 grand. And then there's the strategy part that is usually high 4 figures, if not 5 figures, at least every quarter. So the part where I charge premium for, strategic thinking, creative problem solving, my leadership skills, they continue to compound. And it is more valuable than ever. So what I charged 10 grand back then, I probably would charge 20 grand now. So, the intention of this video is to show you the macro and micro level of how the business landscape is shifting. But really, what I've also painted the picture is, if you're selling execution, it is great. It is like, it's good to have that. But the strategy, the high level thinking, the creative problem solving, all of which you would have such expertise through your professional and your lived experience. Most of you guys have this, you just don't know what that is. You don't know how to name it. You don't know how to package it. You don't know how to position it. You don't know how to price it. And you don't know how to communicate it. and all of which can be solved inside the 4P offer framework. So you don't have to worry about, oh my God, what do I need to learn? You already have everything. Because if you have years, if not decade longs of professional experience and lived experience, you would have your strategic advantage. You just got to get very clear on what is the execution part, which is replaceable. Doesn't mean that you can't charge for it, because sometimes what you enjoy doing, for example, with social media management, I love it. I wanted to learn it. It was a part of who I was at that time. I was living, breathing it. So even though it seems like, oh, it's not a lot, like it took me like literally less than an hour a day to execute it. So it's not bad, but those things come and go really quickly. But the strategy, the high level part, this is where we focus on throughout Beyond the Box. And this is also the part that I really want you to start thinking differently, start spotting opportunities, start really identifying what are some of the core skills that you have that will continue to exist in the next 3 to 5 years. So whatever it is that you build, this one, like it might change, but your expertise, your leadership, your problem solving skills, those, it compounds and the value only gets better over time because of your experience. So yeah, the point here really is AI can and will take your job. But AI will never take over your creativity, your problem solving skills, basically leadership skills, emotional intelligence, your ability to analyze data. Because, first of all, to understand what AI is, I'm going to use ChatGPT as an example because ChatGPT is the one that most people know and use. And basically, that's the only one I use. There are a lot of different ones, but for me, this is what works now. So I'm going to learn how to train and prompt and ask better questions. So ChatGPT is just a tool. What it comes out is based on what goes in. Because if there is nothing, ChatGPT can't respond to something. So the output of ChatGPT really based on the input. And you are the input. And when you apply for when you're pitching yourself to your consulting clients, you are also the input. And what you have and how you train or how you sell your service on how you better how you become a business solution comes from you, and that is creativity. So your job might be gone, your job title might be gone in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but your creativity will never be gone. And I really see these as the death of industrial revolution and the beginning of a creative renaissance. And like I mentioned at the start, I can't talk about creativity without talking about our one true living God. Because as an atheist, with a bloodline from communist nation and growing up in a Muslim country before I moved to Australia, God has always spoken to me through entrepreneurship and creativity. And this is how I know God as a creator through creativity. And this is really important, and it might seem a lot for you right now, and it's not something that you're meant to understand through your logical mind, but actually understanding the essence of creativity is like, how do you bring something into existence? Because through entrepreneurship and business, I've learned that creativity requires order and structure to bring things into existence. Just like AI, if you really want to use that impact first for yourself and then allowing that to be a part of your tool for consulting, you need to understand creativity, which means you're bringing something into existence, something that has yet to exist into existence. So AI I think people were like, oh, AI is going to, okay, I'm going to take a step back. So when I say AI is going to take away our job, I actually think it's a great thing because it takes away a lot of the mundane things that we do. Imagine transcribing. Like, how boring would that be? And now it gets to be done in minutes. and they get to pick and match like which one based on the data they have, what is the best converting, words and all of that. All the mundane stuff. AI takes it away from us. What does it leave us? More time and more space. And it actually allows us to actually do things that matter. But it does require us to put in more effort. And what I mean more effort is to be creative, which means you need to actually spend more time thinking. What questions do you want to ask the AI? How do you want to train AI? What is the outcome? What is the intention behind these? All these are big questions. All these are big questions that helps a business make better decisions, whether it's for yourself or your future clients that you're going to work with in your consulting business. So really, I think that it's not a bad thing. So the intention of why I'm sharing all of this is to really bring forth what AI could do and how it actually makes your life better if you actually choose to see it that way, if you choose to be as a pioneer of where AI evolution is leading us to. Because I really believe in this. So the internet has changed our lives forever. We've spoken about this at the start. Some for the better, some for the worst. And one thing that the internet has really resulted in the past 10 years is rewarding bad behaviors, right? And for a long time, the loudest, the one who was willing to cut corners, imitate and do stupid things and, opinions, instant gratification instead of facts, critical thinking and leadership, like people were just taking the shortcut. And it keeps getting worse because internet has created a feedback loop to reward such behaviors. But the good thing is, this is really this is my perception and perspective of AI, because I truly believe that God has intentionally and intelligently designed the earth with a system and order that runs by itself, right? And so when something is tipped way over the equilibrium, which is what we see on internet, the attention fatigue, and yes, there's going to be a wave where a lot of people just starts churning out AI content where humans will get desensitized towards it. So those who actually have true creativity, those who knows how to use AI differently, those who has originality, which are all of you guys, because you are creative problem solver, because if you are here, you are creative, then you are going to create things that no one else could ever create. Right? So because of that, when things tip way over the equilibrium, it will activate its own intelligence to restore the order, to recalibrate back to homeostasis, to bring it back to harmony. This is called nature's selection. So I do believe that AI evolution is also natural selection taking place. Right? Like what I said at the start, you can either be part of the one that is leading the change, that really prepare yourself, or you can allow AI to like just do what it needs to do, and you would always be responsive. You would always be defensive. Right? And I believe that, natural selection is taking place through the AI evolution, where people who are not willing to upskill, who are not willing to learn new skills, who are not willing to sharpen their soft skills, they are going to get replaced. And you are here, so you're already taking a step. So don't worry about the other things. Because AI's ability to replace a lot of the tedious job that previously requires a lot of human effort, creating more time and space for you to do what truly matters. And this is on the condition that you are not distracted and you take full responsibility over your time. Right? So when you start seeing it from this space, it's like, all right, yes, AI can be destructive. Again, it depends on who the input is. If you input garbage, you get garbage out. That's simple, right? But also AI is just, restoring back into order, bringing back to homeostasis. So if you focus on the leadership skills, if you focus on the high level skills that cannot be replaced by AI, that AI does not have the capability to ever do it. I also have a module, a separate, I think probably it would be part of the skills module where I would list some of the, I would make it clear of what are the lists that are irreplaceable from AI and what are the areas and what are the skills that you can actually educate yourself for and in. Because I think a lot of us, and I think that that's just cognitive bias where we just focus on how things are going wrong or how this is bad or how this is destructive. And if that is the lens that you see things in, if that's just only the only narrative that you're feeding yourself in, then it just becomes a doomsday narrative. And that's not really helping anyone, especially if you're a visionary leader, especially if you're called to create something bigger and create bigger impact. So, to all my conscious woke folks who are arguing about saving the world and ethical concerns about AI, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but also at the same time, like, what about all the different things that we can use to better humanity? Because what we focus, what we focus manifests, right? So, really, if we start looking at how we actually get to use this to recreate a new system that really advances humanity and actually, set the tone for the future generations to come. How does that change your view and perspective on AI, and how will that change the way you choose to run your business and run your consulting business? Because here's what I saw was how AI could potentially change the trajectory of the life of this little boy who I saw learning English with AI through his phone in a rural village in China, the start of this year. Like, he was just practicing speaking in English through AI. Like, is it all damaging though? And I think that this is where, you might not even notice that you start picking on this narrative. And when you have this resistance of like, well, AI is gonna ABCD or the bad things, then even though you could see the potentiality, even though you can combine your skills and learning all these AI skills as a leader and being able to offer that as a business solution, a unique business solution to your clients in your consulting business, you might overlook that because there's this thing of like, well, you can't do that because AI this. Break that lies now. Break that lies now. All right? Because if you really want to be the pioneer, if you want to be the leader, if you want to be the visionary who truly creates change and create an extremely sustainable business, you got to stop letting all this narrative get into you. And yes, Instagram is highly addictive. Instagram is the biggest distraction ever. But if you see it as a marketing tool that works for you and you use AI to use that, and actually you building a business model that focuses on consulting, like, you buy back so much more time. And not only that, you create a consistent stream of income, of revenue streams that allow you to do greater things. So, took this a little bit off tangent. So I digress. But really, creativity is the antidote. Creativity is the antidote to everything. Creativity is the reason why you want to create your 9 to 5. It is why you want to become an entrepreneur. Creativity is this thing that's inside of you that makes you come alive. And if we put aside everything about business, every practicality of how to grow your business, build a consistent consulting business for a moment, if you haven't already, I pray that you get to experience this, because as a creative, as someone who loves creating, who loves bringing things into existence, which you are as an entrepreneur, it, the process of creating is one that AI can never take away from you, because you find fulfillment, you find joy, you find aliveness in the very process of bringing that into life. AI is just refining. It's just like the production, the polishing tool to make whatever it is that you're building better, right? So creativity is something that AI will never replace. Once you like anchor that truth, like, it really changes how you think about your offer, how you pitch to your clients, how you sell your ideas, because creativity is originality. Creativity is originality. Creativity is perspectives. It allows you to see things through the unique lens that only we have. So even me sharing this with you, you'll be like, oh, light bulb is popping, because it's my perspective, it's my creativity, and you would have your own, right? Creativity is our unique way of solving a problem, creating a unique solution, bringing what has yet to exist into existence. And that one, creativity, is our unique way of solving a problem and creating a unique solution. That is what positions you as someone who is irreplaceable in a very practical way, which we'll break down in future modules. And as a consultant, you thrive because you are a problem solver. That is literally what makes a great consultant. And maybe some of you might not even see yourself as a consultant. I mean, I didn't really see myself as a consultant at the start of my years because, well, I didn't work for Accenture, I didn't work for BCG, I didn't work for these big guns. But what I do, the essence of what I do, it's of the consulting nature, right? So this is the time really to be paid to be creative and to be strategic, but for true problem solving impact. Remember what I say about natural selection? I actually think whoever was using AI, who goes like, well, I just created this thing in like 10 seconds and all of this happened, like that dopamine hit, it's going to die. Like nature is going to select that out on its own, and it's not yours to worry. Because what you're going to learn throughout this entire program is how do you turn this creativity, how do you capture, how do you spot the gap in the market as opportunities, and how do you actually capitalize on these opportunities. And if there is something in you that is maybe a little bit resistance towards the word capitalize, I get it. I went through my moment of inner work around that. And you might be like, well, I'm insert whatever. There's two things that really shift my views on that. Number one, it's not my job to save the world. God has sent Jesus to save the world. That is part of his restoration and redemption plan. And number two, for me to have the impact that I want to have, for me to help the people, to donate, to help the causes that matters to me, I need to be financially stable and I need to be in business to help these people. So if I'm worried where my clients is coming every month, if I'm burnt out from creating content that I don't even know if it's actually changing someone's life, how am I actually going to make the impact that God has placed in my heart to make an impact of? So really, like, there's no romanticizing of like, we're going to be poor and help people. Like, you have to be financially stable, not financial free. Without stability, there's no freedom, period. Like, that's a whole different conversation on its own, because a lot of people are like, oh, the moment I have X amount of money, it's free. Number one, if you don't have a system that invests in that, well, you're not free. And number two, like, is that a one-hit wonder? Do you have a clients that would go between 6 to 36 months that you don't have to worry every month to get new clients to worry about marketing? Because that's bad marketing strategy if you have to keep doing it every month, period. Right? Like, and now I'm telling you all of this to tell the story because I've made all the mistakes. And I have designed and upgraded this program so that you don't have to make any of these mistakes. It's boring. It might seem boring. It might seem unsexy. That's one of the reasons why I haven't put this course up for a while, because it's not sexy. But you know what's not sexy? You know what not sexy brings? Stability, freedom, a business that actually thrives without you needing to be on your phone 24/7. It doesn't require you to like think of what you need to create and actually create great product, create great content with context, creating your own intellectual property. Having a stable, predictable business model like consulting, which is what I'm going to teach you. Nothing, no stone left untouched. And this is not the destination. This is literally your next step. It is the launch pad, the foundation for the vision that is being birthed inside of you. Right? So this is a huge space of opportunity right now, especially for those who are leaning into AI space. And my motto on this really is let God be God, let AI be AI, and let humans be human. So you do what you're meant to do, which is to create. Right? So mentioned this multiple times on why this is a threshold of golden opportunity is I'm going to give you a very simple update. So Mark Zuckerberg has announced that Meta is going to transition the entire ads, Facebook ads system into AI. So I have always been a content marketer, always been a content strategist, always been about content, organic content marketing. Facebook ads was never part of my thing. I have done that for clients, but I've always hired someone to do it. But what that means is it's gonna shake the entire industry. It's gonna shake the entire media landscape because most businesses are built like it literally is gonna shake the entire landscape. So in the next 18 to 3 months, as that's being rolled out, we're in for evolution. Like we are in for like a storm, an earthquake. So if you're not asking the right questions now, if you're not thinking, asking yourself, like, what am I actually building? What is my foundation? What is an asset for years to come? Am I building an asset or I'm just literally throwing energy and attention into Instagram that is not compounding, but it feels good in this moment? Right? So right now, I already shared the gap. I already shared the opportunities in which you really get to start asking yourself and start seeing where you want to be and how you want to set up your business. But right now, we take it into another level. We take it into a level deeper. Is like what are your skills, your expertise, your lived experience that AI cannot replicate? We already talk about it, but now it's like to go deeper. What is uniquely yours? So this is just to get the question, like to get the ideas flowing. In the coming modules, there are going to be more practical examples. There are going to be more like teachings and concepts that I've put together to help you really zone down into that. And what does it mean for you as a business owner, a creator, an entrepreneur, or someone who's looking to quit 9 to 5? Bigger than a part of like, yeah, you're going to be a consultant or an advisor. Is that regardless of what it is that your skill that we're going to work through in extracting, you also must learn how to prompt AI. You got to learn how to use it, allow that to replace what in your own plate that can be replaced so you can focus your energy on what only you can bring into the table. You can focus on what makes you irreplaceable. All right. So that really is the macro trend of what, where we're going, like where AI is. Like none of us have answers. But if you see the decisions that Mark Zuckerberg makes and how that's going to shake, well, the entire industry, because all businesses now have an online presence, then you can also ask yourself, based on what you've heard in today's training, based on everything that you've heard so far, what are the opportunities? What are the ideas that have came to mind? I'm sure that there is at least 1 to 3 ideas that popped up. Oh, this is what I can do. Write that down. Because I can guarantee you there's going to be like 50 reasons of why you can't do it, but write it down first, because those are opportunities that you can decide later. You can make decisions later if you want to go and execute and take action on those opportunities. So now we're going to get into why I love consulting. Why I love consulting. The simple thing about consulting and really is, if you are here, if you have resonated and you have taken the the initiative to invest in yourself, to invest in this program. You're someone that solves big problems. You have great ideas and you actually thrive in solving big problems. So what better way it is that you get to solve big problems and get paid from it? And as a bonus, you don't have to be a slave on Instagram to algorithm. You get to post, you get to create what you want to create. And I have, okay, before we go into that, I want to share some, I want to share a personal story first, right? Consulting from a business perspective, it has always been the most profitable arm in my business, right? It was what allowed me to quit my job, became a digital nomad, travel the world, and moved to Bali for 5 years, right? It is how I made my first 100K, 95% profit. It was lean and great for that chapter of my life, right? Because I have this as my foundation. I was able to really freely and creatively express in creating unfiltered content and not overly worried about needing to make ends meet, having that financial stability. And the great news is because what I'm learning, what I'm teaching, what I'm helping my clients with is in marketing, is in content marketing. So when I do my own content, well, I already know how to do it. So it's always parallel, right? Like it's always working together. It's always working in parallel. That's why I say consulting is not the destination, but it's the launch pad. It is the foundation. And it is something that I really see it as a foundation in the 2 years after COVID. Life happened and there were a lot of things that I needed to grieve. It was just not it. And showing up online was not a priority. I could not be consistent. It wasn't a business strategy online. I just couldn't do it. And I'm someone who is a prolific creator. I could teach, I could speak, but at that time I just couldn't. But what really sustained me during that time where I was still able to, produce the level of work, the standard of excellence without needing to show up for the world was consulting. And I think that, as you mature, as you grow as a business owner, or at the start of it, you realize that you need a level of buffer, you need a level of safety net, which allows you to actually take bigger risk. It also provides you with more resource for you to expand the personal brand and education arm of your company, because personal brand and the education part, it takes time. It takes time. And, we would go a lot more detail into the difference between revenue generating activities and brand building activities. I like to see everything that I do in consulting is a revenue generating activities, and you would build your personal brand concurrently as brand building activities, because I'm also not going to deny the fact that when your personal brand is paying dividend and people literally reach out to you on inbox through people like, hey, I want to work with you. It's great. It's sweet. And you get to have both. And also you get to be very smart about both. And when you do it with this one, I like to do revenue generating activities through warm outreach, because exactly, you're very intentional with the clients that you choose to work with. And because you are a consultant, because you have a very highly valuable professional expertise and lived experience and knowing how to package it. Like there is a whole 1% of the marketplace of enterprises that are looking for people like you. That is what I've learned from consulting, is that you get to sell your expertise. You love solving problems. You love creating solutions for people who actually want to pay you and go, well, I don't care how much it costs. I want the best. And that is an equal exchange. You don't have to cold DM and pretend you started conversations. I still get the ick today. Even though there's warm outreach, it's building relationships, but warm outreach from this perspective, from this context, is a whole different story. because you're talking to businesses who could just invest 10 grand, 20 grand for your expertise if you know how to do it right with our 4P framework. Right. So that's why consulting is great. And consulting really is one that really reward the leverage and the value that you have throughout the years that you have in your corporate, in tech, in any of these industries that have given you the leverage. So that's why. That is why. Right. There is zero convincing needed. There is zero convincing needed when you know exactly where to find the clients. And there are three places that I would recommend, and it has been one that continued to deliver in the last 7 years. And you only get it inside our algorithm-proof client acquisition system is the only place where I share it. And it's simple. I don't need you to go through so many places. There's these three places. If you follow the rhythm, if you take action consistently based on what we teach here, there is no chance. There is no chance that you're not going to turn a potential client into a paid client. Some might take 6 months, some might take 6 days, some might take a year. But it's a system that works over time. Right? So that is why I love consulting. And here's the thing, right? Most people assume that my business took off because of my content or my brand. But the reason why my content and my brand can take off was because I have built a foundation in consulting, not content, not coaching, all of this that requires you to jump through 50 hoops. This one is straight and direct. First of all, get your mindset, get your shift, because you got to get out the employee mindset. You got to get out of freelancer. You got to get up the small business owner mindset and step straight as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a CEO mindset. All my training starts with an identity shift, because when you start changing how you see yourself, the outcome changes. So always starts with that. And then you learn how to build a profitable consulting model before everything else. Right? And really learning how to leverage that. And before I even became a consultant, what I teach here is what I use to negotiate a 20K per year pay rise, moving across an industry that most people say I can't. I mean, I was a chartered accountant. There was a straight linear path of how my career was meant to go. And back then it didn't look like, I was like, well, doesn't really matter. But now as a CEO running my own company, and then when I look back, when I was like, really reverse engineering to create the curriculum in this program, makes me realize, wow, like a lot of those skills, a lot of what I shared at the start of like really learning how to dissect my skills and communicate and actually allowing that to come through my conversation is what got me those jobs, which became long-term client. Right? And for you and I, it is our unique advantage, critical thinking and strategic communication. So really, that's it. Like building a consulting foundation that could weather the personal storms, client like churning every couple of months. Because when you think about enterprises, when you think about where you used to work, solutions take 6 to 12 months for it to really come through, right? They have the vision, and then for things to roll out, to test, to experiment, takes about 6 to 12 months to 18 months. So if you know what your offer is, what your strategic advantage is, knowing how to position it, package it, price it, and then being able to structure it in a way that it's going to bring so much value that working with you for the next 6 to 18 months, it's going to save them, lay the foundation for the next 5 to 10 years. Is that not a great value for your future clients? And that's what we teach you inside of here. Like that's what you're about to experience throughout this program. And you are getting paid for your thinking, for packaging your brain, for your perspective, for your ability to identify problems, blind spots, and actually serving clients that actually would benefit the most. Because I think one of the worst thing that you can do is to work with clients that are like feeling forced to pay for your service because you basically talk them into it. And I feel like that's what a lot of the online marketing teaches you. And I think that people don't know better. And with the level of skills and expertise that you have, you don't need to direct all your attention in really identifying and understanding what your strategic advantage is. And I spent 7 years refining these systems into where it is now. And, like I mentioned at the start, like I didn't really intend to actually make this into a program and a product until like I was fully convicted by the Holy Spirit that people needs this. This is why, I go into so much detail and really making sure that you get the big picture, but also the practical side of things, because that's really important. I think as consultant, we have big picture thinking, but also knowing how to create systems, knowing how to create stability for us. In a long run, it benefits our personal brand, our thought leadership. And number two is it actually allow your nervous system to exhale. Because like I mentioned before, as an entrepreneur, like there are a lot of instability. There are a lot of ups and downs. Like it's great. Like, there's nothing better I want to do than be an entrepreneur. But also, it's also your responsibility to look out for your mental health, to look out for your rest. And you can't have rest if you don't have a plan, if you don't know how your clients are coming through, if you're not actually taking a rest and giving deep thoughts into the solution you create. Because when you are always on that dopamine hit on social media, always on that survival thing, you can't think, you can't come up with long-term solutions, you can't come up with new solutions, you can't come up with unique solutions, which the clients that if you actually identify it properly, which we'll all teach you throughout this program, you need that time and space. So it really is a decision. At the start, I already asked you what are you going to decide? Are you going to decide that you are going to really be the leader, be the pioneer of where AI evolution is going? And now are you going to decide that you want to create a stable business model as a foundation, as a launch pad, like where you get to get paid 10K a month, 20 hours a week. You don't have to be on social media, and you actually get to do work that fulfills you, that actually, I don't know about you, but for me, I took some time off from like just this high level work when there were moments in my life. And then I realized I miss solving big problems. And if you enjoy solving big problems, it's great. Because when you can solve big problems, you get paid the value of solving big problems. And so stop letting these like social media hamster wheel funnels. I love funnels. Like I spent the last month geeking out on funnel and building up, for this phase of my company. But 7 years ago when I started, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about how to create a unique solution that gets me paid 10K a month, 20 hours a week. So I really hope that today's training has really showed you that expand your mind of what's possible and allow you to see things that you haven't seen before. And most importantly, you are starting to see yourself as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, as an advisor. This is a start. We have a whole module just on your identity shift, on how to think like a CEO, how to think like a consultant, how to think like an advisor. And you know what's a good thing that comes out of it? When you start thinking like an advisor, when you start thinking like a consultant, the level of content and the context that you can add to your content, it's next level, and you can start seeing the people you attract through your content also shifts. So it's a win-win situation. All right. I'd love to know what are the new ideas that came up for you? What shifted for you in terms of where you see AI is heading and your role in filling in the gap? What are the new opportunities that you have spotted?